I'm Joe. Today on Next Level Bullshit, we take a look at the nanny state bullshit from the wealthiest state in the US, Maryland. Once dubbed the Free State, Maryland is now anything but free, at least when it comes to their opinion of good parenting. Two parents, Danielle and Alexander Matif, had their hands full this year in Silver Springs, Maryland, being free-range parents. Free-range parents. That's the term being used these days for I let my kids play outside. The polar opposite of being a paranoid, overprotective helicopter parent. Late last year, their children, Rafi and Dory, ages 10 and 6, were stopped by the police while walking home from the park. Two cops didn't like that they were alone and drove the kids home. The family was later investigated by Child Protective Services. The Matifs were found responsible for unsubstantiated child neglect. What the fuck? So what that means is there was insufficient or contradictory information that kept investigators from either making a report that neglect is indicated or a finding that it can be ruled out. This finding creates a mark or a strike on the Matif record for 5 years. It'll help assist CPS with future possible decisions if that need arises. Now fast forward to late last month, April 12th to be exact, when Danielle and Alexander dropped the kids off at a nearby park on their way home from Ithaca, New York. The kids grew restless during the long-ass drive, so they were told to play at the park and be home by 6 p.m. Around 5 p.m., as the kids were walking home, a nosy-ass Navy vet called 911 to alert authorities about two children walking unaccompanied and that those two Caucasian kids looked dirty. 3 fucking squad cars responded. Rafi, the oldest, tried to explain to the cops that he knew the way home, and he's done it lots of times before. But the police would have none of that and insisted the kids get in the car and they would take them home. Within a 2-minute walk of their home, they were kidnapped by coercion. Stranger danger. This time the cops were the danger because they didn't take the kids home. Danielle Matif writes on Facebook, the Matif children were confined to the back of a police car for almost 3 hours without any explanation of why they were being detained. The Matif children were then transported to the Montgomery County Crisis Center for further detention. During this entire time, the children had no access to food and only limited access to the restroom. After a series of delays and decisions by CPS and the police, CPS did not release the children to Danielle and Alexander until 10:30 p.m. and the children did not return home until about 11 p.m. on a school night. Stranger danger. The Matifs were freaking the fuck out because no one told them the police had their kids while all this shit was going on. According to this Washington Post article, the timeline was really fucked up. The police officer notified CPS at 5:16 p.m. At 6:10, he called another CPS employee. At 6:41, the officer was told a CPS decision had yet to be made. So, at 7:18 p.m., the officer decided to take the children to the CPS offices in Rockville. Rather than take the kids home, as promised, they took them 13 miles away. Stranger danger! One child had to use the bathroom, the report noted, and had to wait through the 25-minute drive to CPS before being allowed to go. Now, according to Captain Paul Starks with the Montgomery County Police, under Maryland law, if an officer believes there are circumstances or some indication that involves child abuse or neglect, we are mandated as police officers in Maryland to contact Child Protective Services. The law actually states, if a parent or guardian needs to leave a child who is younger than 8 years old, the parent or guardian must ensure that a reliable person who is at least 13 years old will stay to protect the child. Failure to provide a reliable person to babysit the child is a misdemeanor, and the parent or guardian is subject to a fine up to $500 and up to 30 days in prison. This is insane. The state trying to dictate to parents the worthiness of their children based on arbitrary age parameters? So much for the free state of Maryland. But in the U.S. Supreme Court case Troxel v. Granville, a contradictory decision was reached. The custody, care, and nurture of the child reside first in the parents, whose primary function and the freedom include preparation for obligations the state can neither supply nor hinder. This case mostly refers to how the courts handle custody cases, but it is relevant. The Mative legal team is using this Supreme Court decision as a basis for their argument. Now let's look at some facts. The National Incident Studies of Missing, Abducted, Runaway, and Thrown Away Children in 2002 published a report that stated, during the study year, there was an estimated 115 stereotypical kidnappings defined as abductions perpetrated by a stranger or slight acquaintance and involving a child who was transported 50 or more miles, detained overnight, held for ransom, or with the intent to keep the child permanently or killed. Only 115. You brain-damaged helicopter parents don't realize the actual crime states show that kids are hardly ever abducted. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has some key facts on their site. In 2014, there were 466,949 entries for missing children under the age of 18 in the FBI's National Crime Information Center, also called NCIC. Now, that number includes everything from kids whose parents called the cops because they didn't come home on time, runaways, and those 115 or so actual abductions. ICAC task forces noted a more than 1,000% increase in complaints of child sex trafficking from 2004 to 2008. 1 in 6 endangered runaways reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 2014 were likely sex trafficking victims. Now this one will smoke your shorts. 68% of these likely sex trafficking victims were in the care of social services or foster care when abducted. Did you catch that? More than 2/3 of abductions happened after Child Protection Services became involved. In 2010, the Dallas Morning News published The Crime Wave in Our Heads. The vast majority of Americans, nearly 3/4 of the population, thought crime got worse in the United States in 2009, according to Gallup's annual Crime Attitudes poll. As crime rates have dropped for the past decade, the public belief in worsening crime has steadily grown. The more lawful the country gets, the more lawless we imagine it to be. I blame the local news. Nothing but crime and grime accidents. Of course, mixed with the occasional fluff piece. Ever see the movie Nightcrawler? Now, the article continues with, part of the reason for this divergence is what sociologists call pessimistic bias. The unshakable conviction that things are not just worse than they are, but also worse than they used to be. Humans appear to have a hardwired tendency to compare contemporary life with the largely fictitious good old days, in which all schools were top-notch, politicians had integrity, children behaved, and crime was nil. You know, though I remember growing up with pretty much free reign as long as I made it home on time, which I really did. We biked for miles on busy streets and through shady neighborhoods just exploring, having adventure. And we did it without cell phones, GPS devices, or helmets. I blame the helicopter parents. And, as one Reddit user pointed out, their paranoia is insanely complex. I'm not a helicopter parent because I fear for my child's safety, he wrote. I'm a helicopter parent because I fear for my safety from parents who think I'm doing it wrong. Everyone wants to be a fucking hero. Save the day. Maybe. I'll have my 15 minutes of fame. How about minding your own fucking business? The Good Samaritan in this story just gave a family a panic attack, and now the kids have a permanent distrust for authority forever. Oh, and you might have thought this meme just 2 slides ago was a funny exaggeration. It's fucking true. According to the Wall Street Journal, 8% of recent college graduates brought their brain-damaged helicopter parents on job interviews. We're fucking doomed, and there's no way around it. So there it is. a free roaming episode 46. Our last episode on how the country and politicians are embracing stupidity sparked some good discussion. Your TOEIC said, yes, the conclusion of this video is so on point. People are too sure of their prejudices and that they allow it to shape their perceptions. And there are people with agendas profiting from such prejudices. So the shit cycle continues until we break it with compassion and see that we're all in it together. Malcolm Harkness said, I'm enjoying posting your videos on Facebook to show my Southern friends that we as a society have reached a tipping point. We have a betting pool on what dystopian future our country will embrace. You have a betting pool on how shitty the country is going to become? In what way? Dude, that's pretty depressing. Want Some 480 said, George Carlin said it best. When you have a nation full of selfish, ignorant people, you get selfish, ignorant leaders. Yeah, float this other quote through your melon. Think of how stupid the average person is, and realize half of them are stupider than that. Congratulations, may you both live long and prosper and avoid stupid whenever possible. Thanks to everyone who offered your congratulations on our wedding. So, what's today's total?
10.
So, we cracked $100 for the second time. Next episode, we'll announce the lucky charity we donate to. Now, if you find a story that's bullshit worthy, use hashtag NLBS when posting to any social media site. And if you're really motivated, make me a video. If we like it, we'll feature you on our next segment. Of course, you can email me anytime at joe@nextlevelbullshit.com. You can follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and be sure to watch all our shows on nextlevelbullshit.com. Of course, don't forget to go to thenlbs.spreadshirt.com to get shirts and other cool swag. Now, speaking of helicopter parents, a Tennessee dad has taken the madness to the next level. Concerned over his daughter walking to school, he decided to follow her every move with his drone. He just wanted her to know Daddy's always watching.